So if you couldn't tell by my hat and by that poster over there, I like video games. I know, big shocker. You wanna know what my favorite game of all time is? Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. You wanna know what game we're talking about today? God of War Ragnarok. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 quickly became one of my favorite games of all time, and this is for multiple reasons. The story is absolutely fantastic. The world is big and expansive, and it's just super fun to explore. The side content is some of the best, if not the best side content I've ever seen in a video game. There's just so many great things about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I've wanted to talk about it on the channel, but because I've been so focused on my Pokemon projects, I haven't had the time. And since we're in this sort of transition phase between my last big Pokemon project and my next big Pokemon project, I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about Xenoblade and some stuff about Xenoblade 3 because I just haven't had the chance to talk about it because I've been so focused on that. But enough about Pokemon, we're here to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So what is the focus of today's video? Well, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has been universally pretty much praised. I mean, it seems like everyone likes the game to a certain extent, but there is one thing about the game that a lot of people were a little bit iffy on, and that's the story. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 has probably the best video game narrative of all time. It's certainly up there with stuff like the likes of Final Fantasy VII and some other video game narratives. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3 have been kind of controversial when it comes to narratives, and I've seen a lot of people really not enjoy Xenoblade Chronicles 3's narrative for certain reasons, the main one being the main antagonist of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Mobius. Now, Mobius are very different from the previous villains in the series, and that's because of the world that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 takes place in. And today I wanted to talk about why I personally believe the Mobius characters as villains are the only villains that work in the realm of Ionios and in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This video isn't me telling you that the Mobius are good villains, because everyone has different opinions on villains and character arcs, and a story is always subjective. I absolutely loved the story of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but if you didn't like it, that's completely fine too. Narratives are subjective, and I just want to emphasize that here and now. But I do believe that Mobius were the only antagonists that could work for Xenoblade Chronicles 3's narrative, at least as it is right now, and not with the DLC or anything. Like, I can't create a new narrative with another villain. I think that Mobius were the only villains that could work for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I'm going to explain that in today's video. And so welcome to my full analysis on Mobius from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Before I really talk about why I believe they are the only villains that could work for Xenoblade 3, we gotta talk about the good and the bad. So let's start off with the bad. There are a lot of Mobius in the game, and this causes them to feel insignificant and annoying. Now, to be fair, most of these annoying Mobius, like Consul V, who I absolutely hate, are subjugated to side content, mainly the hero quests. So, while they're not necessarily part of the main story, the hero quests are really, I mean, I haven't seen a single person go through Xenoblade 3 and not do all the hero quests. So most of the people playing the game are going to encounter these lackey Mobius who feel like these like Saturday morning cartoon villains with real no motivations besides, I want power, I want to live. And so that gets really repetitive really quickly. And so when you get to the Mobius that actually matter, a lot of the times people are already just tired of seeing Mobius. They want to see a different villain. And when they get to people like X and Y, who I'll get to in a minute, it's very disappointing and very annoying. And that brings up X and Y, some of the true Mobius along with Zed, and some of the higher-ups in the Mobius hierarchy. X and Y are extremely disappointing characters, because they are super important to Ionios' world building. X created the colony ranks, Y created the flame clocks. stuff that is super important to the world building and culture of Ionios, and yet they don't even get death cutscenes, which pretty much every other Mobius gets. And for some reason, they just feel like side thoughts. They're not real characters at all. They have no personality, really. I mean, X is just kind of annoying, and Y talks like freaking Shakespeare. But that's not enough. They should have more relevance in the story. They should be more important, because the world is depicting them as important, but the story is doing the complete opposite. Great characters in concept, but terrible execution. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not bringing up Zed, the other true Mobius, the main antagonist of the game, and we'll get to him later. But that's really all I wanted to say when it came to the negatives of Mobius. Now I want to talk about the positives. Now there are a couple of Mobius I believe are absolutely fantastic characters, so let's start off with Shania. Now Shania is an absolutely fantastic character, and this is because she not only questions the way of life the main party is trying to bring back, she also is saying stuff about our world and making us think about our world, and I think that's great for an antagonist to do. Throughout her entire life, Shania is pressured to become a soldier for the city and live up to the legacy of her house. The big problem is Shania never really wanted to do that deep down. She wanted to paint, she wanted to express her artistic skills, and yet she was forced into this life where she just wasn't as good as other people. She wasn't at the standard that people wanted her to be, and she develops this inferiority complex with Gondor. And eventually she comes to the point where she just doesn't want to live in this life anymore. She wants a second chance, and that's exactly what Zed and Mobius can give her. And so she brings up this really interesting idea that the way of Ionios, the whole 10 years fighting, homecoming, being reborn, is a better life than the life that we know that the people of the city have, because it's a life that at least gives them another go. And I find this concept to be really interesting because it makes us question our own world and also shows that the city life isn't perfect, which I really like. It goes to show you that no matter what kind of world they're going to build, humanity is always going to be flawed. And Zed represents this, and we'll get to him later, like I said. But Shania's character arc is excellent in my opinion, and I believe that her arc, when it comes to an end in Senna's side story, which by the way, should have been part of the main game, but that's a criticism for the actual game, not Mobius. But even so, Senna's side story and Shania's conclusion is absolutely fantastic. I think the character is great, and I think a character that can also be in the same boat as Shania is the character of Yorin. Now obviously Yorin is different from Shania because he was born into the Flame Clock system, but there are a lot of similarities between the two. Both weren't meant for fighting. That is shown 100 times over in this game. Shania wanted to paint, Yorin wants to be a woodcarver. And so they develop these inferiority complexes with the characters of Gondor and Lan specifically, and that's what leads them to go down this hole and eventually become Mobius. Yorin is a good person, he is a caring individual, he is kind, and yet his inferiority took control of him. Zed used that, and in the end, he created Mobius J. And it wasn't until the battle at the Cloud Keep that Yorin realized his mistake, that the Mobius J isn't him. He's not this ruthless, cruel character. He's a kind-hearted individual, and I think that was excellent, and I think that character arc, while not being the best in the game, is still really good. And if we're going to talk about Yorin, we obviously got to talk about Consul D, who in my opinion is just a pain in the ass bitch who I don't like, but I like him because I hate him. He's very similar to one of the antagonists from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, that being Metalface, as he's a recurring character who likes to make the main characters suffer, and in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it's especially Uni. And so the character arc of D is just this typical villain. He's a psychopath, he wants to murder, he has murderous intent, and so he just kind of goes around collecting heads. But he's still a really fun villain, and I think that's what differentiates him from the other Mobius that are in the side content. He reappears, he's more of a threat, he's just fun. He's a fun villain to be around. I enjoy kicking his ass whenever we have a fight with him in the main story. My only gripe with him is that I wish he appeared more, because he only appears like 3 or 4 times in the game, and Mumkar or Metalface appears like all the damn time throughout the first half of the game until you get to Sword Valley. So it kind of sucked that he wasn't around as much, but I still think he was a great villain. Now, if we're going to talk about Mobius, obviously we have to talk about N and M, respectively. These are easily the best written Mobius characters in the game, and while M isn't really a villain, N is definitely a villain, and he's easily one of the best villains in the entire series, alongside Egil and Jin. Their whole thing is that they lived countless lives, and in every single life, they met together, they became Ouroboros, and they died at the hands of Mobius. And Noah had to lose Mio over and over and over and over again. So when Zed finally gives him the opportunity to live together with her, he takes it. He destroys his own brethren, the people of the city, the people with his blood. And then he goes on to force Mio into a life of solitude as Mobius, an eternal now. And they both become infatuated with being together forever. But eventually, Mio, or now rather M, starts to become depressed. She wants him to call her by the name Mio. She wants N to go by the name Noah. And she eventually realizes that she didn't want forever. She just wanted to have her Noah. And Consul N isn't that person anymore. And I think that N as a character is very relatable, not only because, let's be honest here, if you went through the same thing he did, you would have taken Zed's offer in a heartbeat. And his character is also really good for the character of Noah, because, I mean, he literally is Noah, but it really goes to show you that Noah is a flawed character, and that he can make the wrong choices, and it just goes to show you that this could have happened to our Noah if things turned out differently. Countless times throughout the game, Noah says, if I was in the same position as you, I probably would have done the exact same. And I think that really is a good thing, because it not only develops N, but it also develops Noah and really makes him a great protagonist. But yeah, N and M are absolutely fantastic Mobius. They are probably the best written villains in the game, and overall I absolutely love their character arcs. They were absolutely fantastic. But you're probably asking me, Xano, why the hell are you talking about all this? What's the point of all this when you said that this video was going to be talking about why Mobius are the only villains that could work for Xenoblade 3? Well, I wanted to go over all the important Mobius beforehand to really give my thoughts on them, because now I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty stuff. There is a quote stated by Manana in Chapter 4 when the group is in Mac the Wildwood that really resonated with me when I was playing the game.
So, world is supervillain pon.
Huh?
Since it make everyone do nasty things. World is bad guy.
Now, again, very childish, very not pawn-like, very, just not all that important. And I brushed it aside when I was watching that cutscene because there was a lot of stuff going on, and there was a lot of serious stuff going on with that. But when I really went back and looked at it, I realized something. Manana's right. Mobius and Ionios are in different things. The world is Mobius. Ionios and Mobius are one and the same. The villain of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 isn't a character, but the world itself. Ionios is a world where the peoples of Bionis and Alrist are forced into an eternal conflict of war, and this war is meant to go on forever, as was the eternal wish of Mobius. But what birthed that wish? It was the fears and the negative emotions of the digitalized souls in Origin, which birthed Zed, a creature that wanted to protect the world, which is stated by the main party several times in the game, especially towards the end. Mobius wanted to protect the world, so they created a world they could control. But how does this relate to Zed and Ionios? Well, there's another quote stated by N in the game that I think is very important.
The Sword of Origin. You are going to end it all. To end Mobius, the pinnacle of life. This very world!
Again, Mobius and the world are treated as one and the same. And that's why I think Mobius are the only villains that could have worked for Xenoblade 3's narrative, because the world this time around is the villain. Unlike many JRPGs where the main characters are trying to stop the villain from destroying the natural order of the world, destroying the world, this time around the main party is trying to do just that. They're trying to destroy Ionios. And so what happens at the end of the game when you defeat Zed? the two worlds separate. Aionios is destroyed, and that's because Zed is Aionios, the realm of eternity. Aionios literally means eternity. When you defeat Zed, you defeat Aionios as well, and that's what's going to destroy the world. It's going to rip it in two, because the only way Aionios can exist is if Mobius exists, because they are one and the same. And this is why I think Zed works extremely well as Xenoblade 3's main antagonist, because he is the embodiment of the world itself. He is not a character, and that's something you can figure out whether or not you like or not. I'm not saying you have to like Zed, I'm just saying he is the only villain that could have worked for a final boss. There was no way a twist villain would come in, and there's no way N could have been the final villain, because if they became the final villains, Aionios would have been destroyed a lot earlier, and then there just wouldn't be a game. Zed is the embodiment of Mobius energy, the energy and the willpower that created Aionios, the endless now. Mobius and Aionios, they're one and the same. And by destroying that, you destroy the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Well everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this little Xenoblade Chronicles 3 discussion video. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications to never miss an upload, and to share these videos with friends so you can come here and join me for my journey. If you guys want to see more Xenoblade Chronicles content, leave that down in the comment section down below, and I'll be more than happy to make more content about one of my favorite video game series. With that being said, my name is Zanolith, and I'll catch you guys next time.